All right, welcome to Live Impact News. It is 9 o'clock on the dot. Julie Kay here filling in for Jane this morning, here next to Carlene. Carlene, we got a lot to get to today, including some breaking news. So let's go ahead and start with that. I know everyone is paying attention to this morning. Robert Redford, film star and really icon of the community, is dead at the age of 89. Now, we just found this out really in the last 30 minutes or so, and people are just beginning to start the mourning process. But he had such a huge impact on the community, the film industry for many, many years, Carlene. I mean,
and beyond.
Gosh, so he started as a heartthrob, as we were talking about earlier.
Oh, he was a babe.
A babe.
He was the OG heartthrob in Hollywood. I mean, I don't have any pictures right now because I had to go way back, but there, you can find some old Robert Redford pictures. You'll drool a little bit, I promise.
Really started the heartthrob trend and made that impact, and then went on to win an Oscar for directing a film.
Created Sundance.
Created the Sundance Film Festival. Really a big proponent of independent movies. So this is, of course, just a huge loss for the community. No cause of death immediately listed. By that news came out in a statement from Robert Redford's publicist, and they didn't list a reason, but we'll be paying attention to that.
For sure. As I said to you before, like, Robert Redford walked so that Brad Pitt and Clooney and all your heartthrobs now, Chris Pine, all of those who looked up to this man.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting to see what everyone, says in the coming hours. Of course, so many famous movies, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, All the President's Men, just really made such a huge impact. So this is really sad news. Going to keep an eye on this. As I said, we're going to wait to see what some of the people close to him, if we have any statements coming out, any interviews, we will update you when we get those. Turning now, though, to some other news that we're following this morning at the national level. Luigi Mangione is expected in court today, really any minute now. I believe that was listed for 9 a.m.
Yes.
Seems to be running a little bit behind. That's not unusual for something like this.
There was a bunch of people in this hallway a minute ago, and now it's cleared. Maybe the hearing's already started now because of the nature of this case. I would bet my bottom dollar that
no cameras.
No cameras.
Yep.
So this is all we can see as of right now.
What we do know, though, is that this is his first appearance in the state case. Remember, he is charged at both the state and federal level since February. He is accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in the middle of Midtown New York a few months ago. So this is going to be really interesting. Of course, Mangione's defense wants to throw out the state case, saying being charged at both levels could cause double jeopardy. But if that does not happen, it will be interesting to see whether the state case or the federal case goes first. So this could be a really impactful hearing. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But like Carlene said, I don't think we're going to get any cameras inside of there. What else we want to head to next, Carlene?
Let's go to D.C. We got the FBI hearing about what looks like starting now. Looks like opening statements.
Fantastic. We're going to go ahead and listen to that because I know FBI Director Kash Patel is expected to be, questioned quite heavily about his handling of the Charlie Kirk assassination. Patel was very open with how that investigation was going, even talking very publicly about evidence, which I know some people on the other side and inside the FBI had questions, saying that might impact their ability to prosecute. So let's take a listen and see if this is, I imagine this can be very interesting.
From child crimes to January 6 work. Director Patel, you've also moved agents from headquarters to field offices to better align with their law enforcement mission. Under your leadership, the FBI has apprehended several most wanted fugitives and secured the extradition of senior leaders of the Central American gangs like MS-13. Now, it's well understood that your predecessor left you an FBI infected with politics. I'm going to provide examples of that today, including making public new whistleblower records. At your nomination hearing, I made public records that whistleblowers provided me about Arctic Frost. Arctic Frost was the FBI case opened and approved by antitrust Trump FBI agent Thibault. Arctic Frost then became Jack Smith's elector case against then Citizen Trump and now President Trump. These new records show that Arctic Frost was much broader than just an electoral matter. The case was expanded to Republican organizations. Some examples of the group that Ray FBI sought to place under political investigation included the Republican National Committee, Republican Attorney Generals Association, and various Trump political groups. In total, 92 Republican targets, including Republican groups and Republican-linked individuals, were placed under investigative scope of Arctic Frost. On that political list was one of Charlie Kirk's groups, Turning Point USA. In other words, Arctic Frost wasn't just a case to politically investigate Trump. It was the vehicle by which partisan FBI agents and Department of Justice prosecutors could achieve their partisan ends and improperly investigate the entire Republican political apparatus. So today, Senator Johnson and I are making these records public for the entire country to see, and I hope a lot of people are interested in seeing what government can do when various agencies have a political agenda. My investigative work has also exposed the political way in which Peter Navarro was investigated and prosecuted. When FBI agent Thibault found out that Biden's DOJ would prosecute Navarro, he said, "Wow, great." That's a quote, unquote. Through whistleblowers, I've obtained an audio recording of Special Agent Giagardina and Special Agent Sebastian Gardner's delivery of a subpoena to Navarro. I'm making that audio public today. In a court document filed by the Department of Justice, Navarro's interaction with the FBI was unfairly described as, quote, unquote, the word combative. That intervention with Navarro was just as the justification to later aggressively arrest him. Then we get to the Clinton Annex and the Durham Annex. The Clinton Annex showed that the Comey FBI had evidence necessary to complete the Clinton investigation, the one about her mishandling of emails and classified information, but the FBI never did its job because it never reviewed the evidence at that time. The Durbin Annex showed that the Clinton campaign had a plan to falsely tie Trump to Russia, yet the Comey FBI failed to investigate that information. Instead, the Comey FBI used the discredited Clinton campaign-funded Steele dossier to advance Crossfire Hurricane against Trump. Director Patel, thanks in a large part to you, both annexes were finally declassified. That may be history, but it's history to make sure we don't repeat the history of the past. And the people ought to be concerned when the weaponization of government is used in this way, whether it's done by Republicans or Democrats. Last Congress, I made public an FBI document called 1023 form that alleged a bribery scheme with the Biden family. To date, the FBI has never answered Congress whether they investigated the text messages, the audio files, and the financial records referenced in that 1023. Whistleblowers have provided my office with 2 additional FBI 1023 documents. These documents memorialize statements from FBI sources. These 2 new 1023 documents are from separate FBI confidential human sources during different years. So in total, we now have 3 different FBI confidential human sources providing information about the Biden family and potential criminal conduct. Today, Senator Johnson and I are releasing these records. Let me say this for the partisan media, the people that are supposed to be policemen of our Republican form of government. We aren't saying the allegations are true. We want to know what the FBI did to fully investigate their veracity or lack thereof and what they concluded. Let's put this matter to rest one way or the other. Starting with my chairmanship, I've given one example after another of disgraceful partisan weaponization by federal law enforcement. Since the Trump administration took power, many FBI agents have been removed. The removal included agents and prosecutors who became partisan weapons that lost their way, and I've made records public to prove it. and many of my whistleblowers were aggressively retaliated against by some FBI agents who were subsequently fired. One FBI whistleblower publicly said of these terminations, quote, ensuring that they no longer work at the FBI isn't retribution, it's responsible leadership, end of quote. Which brings me to my final and favorite topic, whistleblowers. In August, 10 of my FBI whistleblowers secured compensation agreement because of your leadership, Director Patel. It included a mix of reinstatement to the FBI, reinstatement of security clearances, and monetary compensation. At the beginning of this month, another of my FBI whistleblowers got their job back. All told, across government agencies, almost 20 whistleblowers have received fixes to their retaliation. Today, you'll get a lot of grief from some members of this committee, but in the short amount of time you've been director, you've corrected whistleblower retaliation, increased transparency more than any other FBI director I've seen, whether that FBI director was appointed by Republicans or Democrats. And I've been around here more than anybody else on this committee. I yield to Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Chairman Grassley, for holding this oversight hearing during a critical period in the history of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. During my 4 years as chair, I held 4 hearings with then FBI Director Wray. As a reminder to Republicans who claim the Biden administration weaponized the FBI, President Biden retained Director Wray, a lifelong Republican who was President Trump's nominee for the office. After his second election, in an unprecedented move, President Trump forced out Director Wray and nominated Kash Patel, arguably the most partisan FBI director ever. Director Patel came to the FBI with a political mission, and he spelled it out in writing in detail. He wrote, government gangsters, quote, the rot at the core of the FBI is not just scandalous, it's an existential threat to our Republican form of government, end quote. And with the power of his office and the blessings of the president, he attacked the FBI with a vengeance. Mr. Patel had falsely claimed the FBI, quote, was planning January 6th for a year, end quote. He even went so far as to produce a song by the January 6 rioters who violently assaulted police officers in the Capitol. He compiled an enemies list of public servants he called government gangsters, like former FBI Director Mueller, whom Patel called, quote, an utter swamp creature. Former Trump officials who served with Mr. Patel warned us he would weaponize the FBI to protect the president's allies and target his critics. And indeed, Director Patel has already inflicted untold damage on the FBI, putting our national security and public safety at risk. Since January 20th, the Trump administration has engaged in an unprecedented purge of FBI officials. As we heard from highly credible whistleblowers, Mr. Patel was involved in directing this purge even before he was confirmed, despite his sworn testimony to this committee. It began with terminations and forced retirements of all 6 nonpartisan career officials who run all 6 branches of the FBI, the executive assistant directors. Since then, at least 18 of the 53 special agents in charge of FBI field offices have been removed, along with many other senior officials. Individual agents have been targeted for termination simply due to the work that they were assigned, such as January 6th investigation. In fact, according to former acting FBI Director Brian Driscoll, in a lawsuit filed last week, Director Patel made this very plain, telling Driscoll personally, quote, that his own job depended on the removal of agents who worked on the cases against the president, end quote. And even though he knew, quote, the nature of summary findings were likely illegal. At the same time, Director Patel has installed MAGA loyalists as political appointees in key career positions, including conspiracy theorist Dan Bongino as FBI Deputy Director, the first time in the history of the FBI that this position has not been held by a career FBI agent. Director Patel has also reportedly initiated loyalty test, requiring dozens of officials to sit for polygraph exams and answer inappropriate questions about whether they've made negative comments about him personally. Of course, as is often the case in the Trump administration, the rules apply to thee, but not to me. As we understand it from highly credible sources, key members of Director Patel's senior executive team and others on the 7th floor had disqualifying alerts on their initial polygraph exams. Well, how did they survive? They survived because of a personal waiver by either the director or the attorney general to remain employed by the Bureau. Understand the context here. Political operatives in key positions, given the routine FBI polygraph exam, failed and had to receive waivers to continue their positions. They were lucky to keep their political appointments. They were. But the 5,000 career civil servants the director has so far forced out of the Bureau's ranks were not offered that same courtesy. 5,000. This mass exodus has created a disastrous brain drain, particularly in the fields of cybersecurity, counterterrorism, and counterintelligence. For example, my office has received information indicating that cuts to the Bureau's cyber division will cut personnel by half, despite the ever-increasing threats posed by adverse foreign actors. The brain drain is exacerbated by Director Patel's misuse of remaining FBI personnel and resources to focus on other priorities of this administration. According to reports, the 25 largest FBI field offices have been ordered to divert 45% of their agents from their primary missions to work on the mass deportation of immigrants. Just as concerning is Director Patel's plan to hire fewer qualified agents by removing the college degree requirement and reducing new agent training at Quantico from 18 weeks to just 8. So we have a brain drain and a significant watering down of training. Quite a record, Mr. Patel. As recently fired special agents and others have warned, fast-tracking inexperienced and improperly trained people into critical national security jeopardizes the Bureau's ability to effectively protect America. Director Patel himself had no training or life experience for this position. The result of that incompetence is staggering. For example, after Attorney General Bondi publicly stated in February that the Epstein client list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now to review, that's what she said on Fox, Director Patel diverted more than 1,000 FBI personnel from their critical missions to work on 24-hour shifts reviewing over 100,000 pages of Epstein-related records. These personnel were instructed to flag any records in which President Trump was named. But that review ended in an unsigned memorandum from DOJ and FBI stating simply, there is no incriminating client list, close quote. Director Patel still has not responded to my letter from 2 months ago asking about his role in this cover-up. On the day of the horrific shooting of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University, Director Patel again sparked mass confusion by incorrectly claiming on social media that the shooter was in custody, which he then had to walk back with another social media post. Mr. Patel was so anxious to take credit for finding Mr. Kirk's assassin that he violated one of the basics of effective law enforcement. At critical stages of an investigation, shut up and let the professionals do their job. Notably, Director Patel recently forced out Special Agent in charge of Salt Lake City, Mayim Saeed, a counterterrorism expert with 20 years' experience, who would have led this high-profile investigation. The men and women who serve at the FBI and the American people deserve a director who has the ability and the character to restore the Bureau to its place as the preeminent law enforcement agency. I want to close on a personal note. I came of age in the 1960s. We experienced a number of horrific assassinations, including President John Kennedy, Senator Robert Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King. We are going through a similar period of division and political violence. All of us in public life, on both sides of the aisle, have a responsibility to bring down the temperature and to work to unite the American people. Let's be clear. Republicans are not Nazis, and Democrats are not evil, as Mr. Patel has claimed. Democrats are not responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk, and Republicans were not responsible for the murder of Melissa Hardman. Our political opponents are not our enemies. We are all Americans, and we should be working together to keep the American people safe and protect their constitutional rights. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Would you please stand so I could swear you? Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Please be seated, and you can give your statement now.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Durbin, and members of the committee. It's an honor to be here with you today as the 9th Director of the FBI. I want to providing a briefing into the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's important that this FBI is transparent as possible without jeopardizing investigations. Charlie Kirk was shot at 12:23 p.m. on September 10th. I think this timeline is critically important. Less than a day later, the FBI, at my direction, released the first set of images of the suspect that we captured based on our analysis on the ground. Later that evening, while conducting extensive interviews and cell phone analysis and also flying out evidence response teams and hostage rescue teams and evidence tacticians who were collecting evidence in live time and flying them back to Washington, D.C. in our laboratories for immediate analyses, we were able to extract video from the campus feed. And at my direction at 8 p.m., in partnership and in promise to working with the public to bring this fugitive to justice, we released a newly, never before seen video of the suspect. We also released new enhanced photos of the suspect. A few hours later, that suspect was in custody, pursuant to the interrogation of the suspect's own father, who stated, "When I saw that video that you released, I recognized it was my son, and I confronted him, and he was handed over to lawful law enforcement authorities." That is the FBI working with the public, as I promised, being transparent and providing critical information along the way in the manhunt for the suspect or suspects involved in Charlie's assassination. We received over 11,000 tips in the first 24 hours alone. We received 16,000 submissions to our digital media enterprise and tip lines. That is a large number of material to go through. I want to thank President Trump and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, for their unwavering support and commitment of resources to this and all investigations. I also want to especially thank our colleagues in Utah, the Governor's Office, DPS, and the sheriffs out there. State and local law enforcement partnership has been a cornerstone since I took over at the FBI, and it was no different here. And our teams in Salt Lake City, our SACs out there across the country, our lab technicians in Quantico who raced to complete the evidence analysis so the public could have the answers they need. These people worked through the night without sleep for days on end. They are to be commended. They are not to be attacked. And many, many, many more people I don't have time to thank here today. But I do want to thank the American people especially. The mission of the FBI is for them and with them and by, with, and through them. And it's that mission and that ethos that I brought to this investigation and so many others, and that's why that suspect is in custody. We cannot do our job without the American public and credible reporting in the media, and that's why Tyler Robinson is in custody today, about to face charges. The last time I appeared before this committee was in January for my confirmation hearing. I told you then that if I were confirmed, I would provide and do everything I can to provide a safe and secure America. I promise to provide the courageous men and women of the FBI the tools and resources they need to crush violent crime and defend the homeland. I pledge myself to commit to full transparency, oversight, and accountability so we could restore the public's trust in the FBI. And that's exactly what I've done. Under this administration, the FBI has arrested more than 23,000 violent criminals. That's more than twice for the same time period from last year alone. 23,000, more than twice from the same time period last year. We've taken over 6,000 illegal firearms off the streets. That number is an exponential increase. We've identified and located more than 4,700 child victims. More than 4,700 child victims have been found by this FBI. That is a 35% increase from the same time period last year. 1,500 child predators have been arrested. That's a 5% increase from the same time last year. 300 human traffickers have been arrested. That's a 10% increase from the same time last year. Over 350 members of Tren de Aragua, foreign terrorist organization, have been arrested, and we have 42 ongoing cases. That is a 250% increase from the same time last year. Those are just some of the things the FBI is doing differently and better because we are leading the mission to crush violent crime and defend the homeland. We have also captured four top 10 fugitives from the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. To put that in perspective, that's the same amount I've captured in 7 months than my predecessor did during the entirety of the Biden administration. Those are real results, and the credit is to the men and women at the FBI. We've been able to achieve these results because the FBI recognizes violent crime doesn't just happen in Washington, D.C. That's why one of my first decisions as a director was to get the people, the Bureau's professional staff, out to the field. And we've done that with great speed. And every single one of your districts and states has received a plus-up of FBI personnel, agents, and special operators to the tune of almost 1,000. We did that because crime had unexpectedly and unacceptably exploded across the country. In fact, one of the stats that the American people should thank the FBI the most for is we are on track to have the lowest murder rate in modern American history. The lowest murder rate by double-digit percentages. A major factor in the drop of this violent crime is the FBI's flagship Operation Summer Heat. We use this initiative at the direction of the President and the Attorney General, surging resources to our major and mid-major cities across America, conducting intelligence-based operations to target the worst of the worst, to target the gangs, to target the transnational organizations, to target the TCOs, and to target the drug trafficking cartels. And we have taken them out city by city. There's a lot of work left to be done, but we're off to a great start. Just ask the citizens of Seattle, Miami, Memphis, Charlotte, Chicago, and so many more places. Specifically in New Orleans and Nashville alone, there has been an increase in the number of violent crime arrests by an average of 250% for each of those cities. And there has been a drastic reduction in crime across the board in mid-major cities across this country, thanks to the men and women of the FBI. How are we doing that? We are attacking the drug epidemic. We've seized nearly 1,000 kilograms of meth and cocaine off the streets of America. We've taken over 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl off the streets. Maybe one of the greatest achievements we have this year, 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl. That's a 25% increase from the same time last year. To put things in perspective, that's enough fentanyl to kill a third of the American populace, 115 million Americans. We're also going after the companies that manufacture these precursors overseas in places like mainland China and their cutting agents. In fact, this month in Cincinnati, we announced groundbreaking charges aimed at the individuals and businesses responsible for flooding these opioids and their precursors and cutting agents into the streets of America. And for the first time that I can remember, we are charging these businesses and enterprises, not just in America, but in mainland China, and seizing their operational necessity to have money by seizing their cryptocurrency wallets. We're also equally important to protecting the homeland. We know we have a no-fail mission. We're committed to keeping our nation safe from terrorism, cyber attacks, and foreign adversaries. Whether stopping threats inspired by foreign terrorist organizations or lone wolf actors, or sponsored by hostile nation states. This year, we've already made nearly 60 counterintelligence arrests. 60 counterintelligence arrests this year alone is a 30% increase from the same time period last year for the CI work at the FBI. I'm proud when we can share our successes, such as when an espionage charge was brought against an active-duty U.S. Navy sailor caught spying for the People's Republic of China. But I want the American people to know the FBI is protecting the homeland from foreign adversaries in a way that will never make the news, and a lot of the good work that they do will never be able to be discussed in this setting. We're working on cyber threats. We're attacking malware infrastructure, going after ransomware attackers, delivering a new partnership with the private public sector engagements we've taken with the companies who are attacked by these foreign adversaries and nation-state actors and individual enterprise rings from around the world. We are combating Salt Typhoon, Vault Typhoon, Flax Typhoon, and so many other ransomware and cyber threats this nation faces. We're also arresting people such as Tajik national in Brooklyn, who is suspected of sending tens of thousands of dollars to support ISIS. We're going after the new form of what I refer to as modern-day terrorism in America, 764 crimes that involve harming our children by going after them online, causing self-mutilation, suicide, sexual abuse, and steering them in the wrong direction. Currently, we have 3,500 international terrorism investigations. Specifically, we have in this country 1,700 domestic terrorism investigations, a large chunk of which are nihilistic violent extremism, NVE. Those who engage in violent acts motivated by a deep hatred of society, whatever that justification they seem is. The FBI has seen a 300% increase in cases opened this year alone versus the same time last year. In the last couple of months, the FBI secured a guilty plea for a man in Tennessee who attacked an energy facility with drones and explosives. We secured the indictment of a violent Sinaloa cartel faction leader in Chicago on narco-terrorism charges. Our folks in Sacramento collaborated with domestic and international partners to secure a guilty plea for a leader of a transnational terrorist organization who solicited the murder of federal officials. But the Bureau's job is not done. I'm committed to this transparency. Mr. Chairman, you alluded to our work with Congress. To date, in the 7 months that I've been FBI director, we have produced 33,000 pages to the United States Congress, 33,000 pages. Just to put that in perspective, my predecessor in his 7-year term issued 13,000 pages to Congress, and his predecessor in his 4-year term issued 3,000 pages to Congress. I've issued 33,000 pages in 7 months, and we're going to keep going. I'm dedicated to restoring the trust that the public has and needs in the integrity at the FBI, and it's being done every day by the men and women of the FBI. Now, I know that there's a lot of talk about Epstein, and I'm here to testify that the original sin in the Epstein case was the way it was initially brought by Mr. Acosta back in 2006. The original case involved a very limited search warrant or set of search warrants and didn't take as much investigatory material it should have seized. If I were the FBI director then, it wouldn't have happened. The search warrants were limited to small time periods to include 2002 to 2005 and 1997 to 2001. Mr. Acosta allowed Epstein to enter in 2008 to a plea and non-prosecution agreement, which then the courts issued mandates and protective orders legally prohibiting anyone from ever seeing that material ever again without the permission of the court. The non-prosecution agreements also barred future prosecutions for those involved at that time of those individuals. Still, this administration, at the direction of President Trump, has done more to turn over all the credible information we are legally able to do so, and we will continue to work with Congress to achieve that end. Under the direction of the President, thank you for your support for our mission to working to jointly deliver transparency and congressional oversight to the United States. Lastly, I want to close with the President's initiative here in Washington, D.C. as an example of what we're doing around the country. And I think our next city is Memphis. 21,000 arrests in D.C. with our federal partners, a huge decrease in violent crime, 60% decrease in gun crimes in Washington, D.C. in the last month. 74% decrease in carjackings in Washington, D.C. in the last month. 53% decrease in homicides in Washington, D.C. in the last month. The drugs are disappearing, people are freely walking around the states, and we're restoring the nation's capital to its glory. That work is through the interagency process that the FBI is proud to be a part of, and the initiative spearheaded by President Trump and the Attorney General. And perhaps most notably for investigations, in Washington itself, it was the intelligence that the FBI gathered through our source network here in D.C. that helped us identify the suspects in the horrific murder of the D.C. intern Eric Tarpinian. We're proud to be a part of that investigation. We're proud to put the resources to bear of the FBI. And in closing, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee and Ranking Member Durbin, I'm honored to be the 9th Director of the FBI. I'm not going anywhere. If you want to criticize my 16 years of service, please bring it on. Over to you.
Okay. So,
Closer. Yeah. I've observed when, whether it's Republican or Democrats, want a yes or no answer, that the witness and the senators talking over each.
All right, you've been listening into the FBI director hearing with Kesh Patel. Just listening to opening statements from Chairman Grassley and from Kesh Patel, addressing a myriad of things. Most importantly right now, of course, Charlie Kirk and Patel's handling of the information and the investigation into Charlie Kirk's murder. Other things we're paying attention to right now, protests outside of the Luigi Mangione hearing. He is appearing in state court, I believe right now. His defense is trying to get that state charge thrown out so they can just focus on the federal defense, hoping to get updates there soon. Meanwhile, at Joint Base Andrews, President Trump is preparing to leave for London, his second state visit there. So he will be awaiting protests, I know, in the UK as he arrives. So lots of things on our radar as we approach 9:40. We're going to take a quick break and come back to that FBI hearing. All right, coming back on the air here for Live Impact News. Time on the clock is 9:40 a.m. Lots of things going on this morning. Of course, we know that the FBI chairman, Kesh Patel, is being questioned. This is going to be really interesting. As we've been listening into the opening statements, you can see it here live with Chairman Grassley. I believe those questions are getting started, most likely about Charlie Kirk and Patel's handling of the information about the suspect and the investigation. Let's take a listen in.
During child crimes and sexual misconduct related investigations, are any private sector companies less than cooperative with you? What improvements in information sharing need to be made to catch those criminals?
Mr. Chairman, we can always do better with our private sector companies. I've reached out to the leaders of most of them, asking them to provide more material so that we can be responsive and take legal action and protect the youth of this country. I'm happy to discuss, possible legislation that we can do to allow for these companies to continue.
Yeah. Say maybe 1 inch up on the microphone.
Sorry.
I think you're close enough, but I think it's just a little bit lower. When you raise your head, it's difficult to hear. Director Patel, since 2021, I've raised concerns about the Biden administration failure to properly vet Afghan evacuees. Director Gabbard informed my office that as of August 2022, approximately 1,600 evacuees located in the United States had ties to terrorism and other derogatory information. That's why I and many others have opposed bills giving blanket approval. Are you aware of what steps your predecessor took to investigate these evacuees? And what steps have you taken to investigate them? And what, if any, national security concerns still exist?
Mr. Chairman, I can't speak to the steps my predecessor took, but I will make sure we do a sweeping review and get back to you on that. As far as the Afghan refugees and evacuees, as during my tenure, we are going through the databases to make sure that no known or suspected terrorists enter this country to harm our nation. And also, as my resolve as FBI director, one of the first acts we undertook was a manhunt of one of the Abbey Gate bombers and leaders in that crime spree that killed 13 brave Americans. And within 2 weeks, we caught one of the leaders of the Abbey Gate bomber and brought him to justice here in 2 weeks from Pakistan. And so my commitment to you on Afghanistan in all matters is complete and without border.
Yeah. Through my and other investigations, we found that the Biden administration lost thousands of undocumented children. We never heard a peep from senators wanting to help find them, even after I invited them to do so. In September 2025, the Trump Health and Human Services announced the creation of an interagency crime coordinator cell to find these and other missing children. That interagency.
Coming back on real quick, because I know we're getting some word from President Donald Trump as he prepares to depart for the UK. As I mentioned, he'll be probably awaiting some protests in London. So let's take a listen into what he has to say about that trip and other things going on.
Tell you that if they put the hostages in front of them, Hamas as protection, as what they call them bodyguards, Hamas is going to have hell to pay. Your trip to the UK today, what do you hope to achieve? Well, my relationship is very good with the UK, and Charles, as you know, who's now king, is my friend. And it's the first time this has ever happened where somebody was honored twice, so it's a great honor. And this was at Windsor. They've never used Windsor Castle for this before. They used Buckingham Palace. And I don't want to say one's better than the other, but they say Windsor Castle is the ultimate, right? So it's going to be nice. But basically, I'm there also on trade. They want to see if they can refine the trade deal a little bit. We made a deal, and it's a great deal. And I'm into helping them. Our country is doing very well. We've never done this well. We're having trillions of dollars coming because of the tariffs. They'd like to see if they could get a little bit better deal, so we'll talk to them. But primarily it's to be with Prince Charles and Camilla. They're friends of mine for a long time, long before he was king. And it's an honor to have him as king. And, you know, I think he represents the country so well. I've watched. He's such an elegant gentleman, and he represents the country so well.
After Robert Redford passed away today, did you hear about that?
Did? Wow.
Apparently in his sleep at his home.
Well, that's a good way to go, I guess. But I'll tell you, Robert Redford was great. He had a series of years that there was nobody better. This just happened, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
The guy that called Utah in his sleep.
Yeah.
And what movie would you say you liked the best in?
Well, you have a lot of them. Honestly, I'd say he made 7 or 8 great movies. They were really great. There was a period of time when he was the hottest. I thought he was great.
On TikTok. Well, TikTok goes dark. Are you going to delay the TikTok ban?
Well, we have a deal on TikTok. I've reached a deal with China. I'm going to speak to President Xi on Friday to confirm everything up. We made a very good trade deal, and I hope good for both countries, but a very different deal than they've made in the past.
What companies are going to buy
We'll be
it?
announcing that. We have a group of very big companies that want to buy it. And, you know, the kids wanted it so badly. I had parents calling me up. They don't want it for themselves. They want it for their kids. They say, if I don't get it done, they're in big trouble with their kids. And I think it's great. I hate to see value like that thrown out the window.
So on auto, guys, so auto executives.
And, you know, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars.
Some auto executives are concerned that compromising the 15% for auto tariffs coming in hurts American automakers. What do you say to?
Well, I haven't compromised anything. Where did I compromise?
Going down to 15% from 25.
Going down to 15%. We charge well. And where did the 25 come from? It came from there. President? You tell me. Just so you know, they paid nothing for years. Now they're paying 15%. And some things can pay more, like chips could pay more. Pharmaceuticals could pay more. You know, there's a bigger margin. With a car, you have to make 15% before you make a profit. Pretty tough. So, but we had a good deal. Don't forget, European Union is paying our country because of tariffs $950 billion. Think of that. We're talking about a year. $950 billion. Japan is paying us $650 billion. These are countries that paid us nothing until I came along. And China's paying us a tremendous tariff. You know what the tariff is, right? You know what the tariff they're paying us? What?
Yeah, so it's 30% for the fentanyl as well as whatever for the 301.
20% for the fentanyl. But the overall is about 55%. Okay? That's as opposed to nothing. Would you say that's a difference? We have a big decision coming up, and if the Supreme Court rules the way hopefully they will, because, I mean, every legal expert said we win that case, but you still have to watch. And the Supreme Court's been terrific. I think they're very fair. All I want is fairness, then we win. But if we win the Supreme Court case, which is the finalization of tariffs, we will be by far the richest country anywhere in the world, and we'll be able to help our people more, and we'll be able to help other countries when we want to. But I will say, if we win that case, our country, you see what we've taken in just on a temporary basis. We've taken in trillions of dollars, trillions with a T, and we will be by far the richest country in the world. There'll be nothing close. And, one other thing, we'll have tremendous power to negotiate. The use of tariffs. I settled 7 wars. 4 of them was because I was able to use tariffs.
Hopefully, the other day in an interview, criticized the fact that some CEOs make hundreds of times more in salary than average workers. He's worried about polarization.
Yeah.
Do you share that concern?
Well, I do say there's a big gap. I do say that. Don't forget, I'm a popularist. There's a big gap.
Mr. President, it's been a month since a month on, do you think that meeting accomplished what you hoped?
Yeah, accomplished a lot, but it takes 2 to tango also. Those are 2 people, Zelensky and Putin, that hate each other. And it looks like I have to sit in the room with them because they can't sit in the room together. There's great hatred there. But no, that meeting accomplished a lot.
Mr. President, you still have complete confidence in Patel. What are you hoping comes from his testimony on the Hill today?
Well, first of all, I think that Pam Bondi has done an unbelievable job, and everybody agrees with that. And Cash, if you take a look at what he did with respect to this horrible person that he just captured. He did it in 2 days. It took other similar cases 4 days, 5 days, 4 years. If you look at certain shooters. Now, I have confidence in everybody in the administration. My administration, and a lot of people are saying it, not just me, it's so far the best administration ever formed. You look at our financial people. Our country is making a fortune. We have to keep tariffs because our country has become successful because of tariffs. We have the case in the Supreme Court. That's a very vital case for the success of our country. It's very vital to negotiate with other countries. And remember, other countries charge us tariffs. That's a very, very big case. And if we win that case, our country will be by far the richest country anywhere in the world. And then we can help our people. We'll get rid of debt. We'll get rid of everything. We can help our people, and we can even help other countries where they need it.
Mr. President, narcotics in Venezuela. Narcotics in Venezuela. President Maduro in Venezuela says that you're getting ready to invade his country. What is his message to him?
Well, I would say this right away. Stop sending Tren de Aragua into the United States. Stop sending drugs into the United States. We knocked off actually 3 boats, not 2, but you saw 2. And the problem is there are very few boats out in the water. There are not a lot of boats out in the water. I can't imagine why. Not even fishing boats. There's nobody. Nobody wants to go take a fish. So it's one of those things. But I would say to him very strongly, stop sending people from your prisons into our country. They're sending their prisoners. They've done that already. So the numbers just came out. Another month with 0 people getting into our country. And these are figures, John, with people like you that would like me to do badly. Nobody has ever done on the border like I've done.
Mr. President, what will you tell President Zelensky if you meet with him in New York? What will
Well,
you
he's going to have to get going and make a deal. He's going to have to make a deal. Zelensky's going to have to make a deal. And Europe has to stop buying oil from Russia. Okay? You know, they talk, but they have to stop buying oil from Russia.
Mr. President, there are some regarded to be the wealthiest man who's ever occupied the White House. How much wealthier are you now than when you returned to the White House?
Well, I don't know. The deals I made, for the most part, other than what my kids are doing, you know, they're running my business. But most of the deals that I've made were made before. And that's what I've done for a life. I built buildings. Like I'm building a building here. You know where I'm building? You know what? You see that area? Yeah. That is going to be the greatest ballroom anywhere in the world. And for 150, so it gives me pleasure to do it for the country. And I'm paying for it. I'm paying for it. The country's not, and that's an expensive ballroom. I think it'll cost $250 million, and it will be, I think, the finest ballroom. So for 150 years, John, you know this? They've wanted a ballroom. And now they're going to finally have it. And it's going to knock your socks off.
But is it appropriate, President Trump, that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity?
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners program.
Well, the Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone. Go ahead, John. Maybe you can set a nicer tone.
UAE does a deal. What does it want in return?
Quiet.
Mr. President, what are you hearing about the operation in Gaza, the Israeli operation? Are you concerned?
Well, I'm hearing that they want to go in, and I'm also hearing that Hamas wants to take our 20 hostages plus dead bodies. You know, they have about 32 of them, and they want to put them in the way of any attack. And nobody's happy about that situation. It came out yesterday. I'm sure you saw that. They want to, supposedly they've taken the hostage out of deep caves and tunnels, and they're bringing them, putting them on the front line. Nobody's heard of that one for a few centuries.
We saw that the UN said that Israel is guilty of genocide, that they've committed acts of genocide in Gaza.
They voted on that?
A new report out saying multiple acts of genocide.
When it comes to a vote, we'll see what happens. That'll come to a vote, but we'll see what happens.
And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
She'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech. So maybe they'll have to go after you. Look, we want everything to be fair. It hasn't been fair. And the radical left has done tremendous damage to the country. But we're fixing it. We have right now the hottest country anywhere in the world. And remember, 1 year ago, our country was dead. And now Washington, D.C. is fixed, and I fixed it. The mayor was fine. The mayor was just fine, okay? The mayor had the sick city for many years. She's been mayor for many years. The one that fixed it was me and my people, and it is so safe. You should take your beautiful wife tonight and have dinner down there. You won't be shot. You won't be accosted. You won't even be looked at incorrectly by anybody. Washington, D.C. is safe. Now we're going to Memphis, where it's pretty rough, to put it mildly. And then we're going to have to go. A friend of mine who is a big railroader, he stops in all the cities. He knows every city. He said, sir, you have to save Chicago. So I'm going to go to Chicago early against Pittsburgh.
All right. Well, it looks like, hi, everybody. Jane Monreal here now in the Live Impact studio on WCNC Plus. It looks like that picture just froze just a touch, but we are waiting for President Trump. There he is, speaking ahead of his trip to London. And looks like Air Force One.
Yep, he's now heading to London. He spoke in front of the White House moments ago.
Okay, so
now
now
Air
he's
Force
taking off.
One is on their way to London town.
Okay, very good. So we always like to see Air Force One take off. As soon as we lose the plane from our naked eye, we will take a little bit of a break here, but it's always impressive to see Air Force One. Such a gorgeous plane. As he leaves for London, he had comments there on White House lawn, speaking to reporters, and his topics, of course, speaking on crime and leaving for the UK. All right, very good. So let's go ahead and take that 2-minute break here as we come up on 10 o'clock. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+. Hi there, it's 10 o'clock here on Live Impact News. I'm Jane Monreal. You are watching WCNC Plus. Thanks for downloading the app to your Roku, Fire, and Apple TVs. And a quick shout out to Julie Kay for holding it down here for the first hour here on WCNC Plus. Right now, we want to talk about a new report in today's world. It is facing a growing nature deficit. Who knew that that was a thing? But in fact, nearly 2/3 of Gen Z, that's 67%, say they can go days without stepping outside. So to change that, Supernatural British Columbia is introducing the Nature Rating. It's a new tool built on the idea that the more we connect with nature through culture, the more likely we're going to seek it out in life. So here to tell us more than anyone else, really, is this major adventurer. She is an explorer, an aquanaut, an astronaut, an author, 6-time Guinness World Record holder, Vanessa O'Brien. Vanessa, thank you for joining us here this morning on Live Impact News.
Hi, Jane, how are you?
Oh, doing well. Vanessa, wow, man, Tuesday motivation, we need it. So, all right, talk to me about this new research. What is it about our connection to nature and why is it declining, especially the younger folks?
Yeah, it's quite a startling statistic. So what happened is Supernatural British Columbia undertook a survey which showed that there is less nature in the content that we consume today. And that's kind of a big deal. What they did was they put together this tool called the Nature Rating Tool, and it allows us to go online and analyze the content by putting in the songs that we are listening to, the movies that we're watching, the books that we're reading, and it will rate those things 1 to 10 based on how much nature is in the content. Why this matters is because another part of the survey is showing that when people see nature in the content or hear nature in the content that they are consuming, they are more likely to want to introduce it into their real life. So that connection is so strong, and we want to make sure that the nature is in the content that they're consuming so that they will eventually get outside. That's the goal. So it's a free, first of its kind online tool, super easy to use when you go to thenaturerating.com. It's fun, super informative. It'll give you alternatives, and it'll also tell you where you can go outside nearby.
Wow, that is fascinating. Here in North Carolina, of course, we have the Blue Ridge Mountains, all of our mountain regions, the beaches, all our beautiful trails, and all our tree canopies. You would think that more and more people want to connect. We have that right here in our backyard, right? What are some of the ways, if you're not as close to a trail or something like that, how can people reconnect with nature, and why is it so important to do that?
Well, it's important to do it first because of the physical health. You're going to get that cardiovascular when you start moving around, all the benefits of that for the lymphatic drainage, but also just the mental health. Serotonin peaks when we're outside. We're experiencing the blue-green wavelengths, which happen to be perfect to give an uptake to both serotonin and melatonin, which helps with the sleep quality. But what people have to avoid is making excuses. It's really important that people protect even 10 minutes if they don't have time to look out a window and watch the trees, watch the birds, watch what's happening. The sun's coming up where I am right now, so just behind me. It's a beautiful naturescape in Whistler in British Columbia. But also just go walk around the block. Don't wait to say like, oh, I don't have time to go to the park. You don't have to go to the park to get the benefits. You just have to step outside and just get away from the desk for a moment. Even 20 minutes makes a big difference in somebody's life. And be selfish with your holidays. Make sure that you know what you want to see and do or experience. Experiences are so much more valuable overall for our mental well-being. So know what you want to do and make a plan to go out and experience it. That's the most important thing. Is the reason behind this tool is really to have people understand the awareness that nature is lacking in their lives and to get outside.
I so agree. I actually made it a point, not yesterday, the day before yesterday, I went outside on my deck, I put the phone away, and I sat there and watched the birds and watched a little bit of the sunset and just stayed with all I could, some trees, some birds. That was it.
Absolutely.
That's all I had. Better than nothing.
But Jane, that is all you need, and that's the beauty of it is, just something as simple as that will make you a much happier, calmer person, and you don't have to necessarily do the big stuff. You can do the little stuff, and more little stuff is much more impactful than just one giant big bang.
All right, Vanessa O'Brien, you're talking the talk. You also walk the walk. What is your next adventure? Where can we look for you?
Well, my adventure right now is this tool and getting the message out. I'm here. I had my first sailing lesson yesterday in British Columbia, which is just 2 hours. Vancouver's 2 hours from Seattle. And it was awesome. I got the wind, I got the sails up, I got that spinnaker in the right place, and I was off. That was so much fun in Squamish. And even they have a sort of a sea to sky gondola, so going up and walking through the forest, seeing the canyons. All of it is just so much fun. So I love exploring, I love going out there and seeing new things. And I know other people would love it too if they just took a little bit of time. A little bit goes a long way, but nature will make a big impact in your life, and you'll see the happiness in it, almost instantly.
All right. Yes. Word to the wise. Gen Z, put your phone down for a little bit. Vanessa O'Brien.
Turn it off. Unmute.
Turn it off. There you go. Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much. Those pictures and videos are lovely. So we live vicariously through you, and I'm going to breathe in some fresh air a little bit later on.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jane.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Here in the Live Impact studio now on WCNC Plus, Kash Patel, director of the FBI, is testifying right now in front of a Senate Judiciary Committee. This is live. Let's listen in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Sexually violent acts online and mimicking people.
Would you say that the way social media is structured today, really no accountability, 36 million images in 2023 of sexually exploited children, that this is a public health hazard?
It is.
Would you say that it's
All right, here we go again. So we will just take this a little bit, frozen there. Okay, and we're back.
I have been all in, and I'm happy to work with Congress to do so.
Well, I tell you what, having the FBI director all in is great news for me, and I hope the committee will respond and that we'll be all in, trying to fix a problem that I think is doing a lot of damage to our country. Problem.
I'm all in, I have been all in, and I'm happy to work with Congress to do so.
Well, I tell you what, having the FBI director all in is great news for me, and I hope the committee will respond and that we'll be all in, trying to fix a problem that I think is doing a lot of damage to our country. When it comes to John Bolton, was there new evidence involved in the raid on his home?
Sir, that investigation is very much ongoing. As you know, there was a raid of his house pursuant to a legal
Was there a
search
warrant obtained to go in?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. All right.
We're looking to have that search warrant unsealed
Okay.
at the
Yeah,
appropriate
I
time.
think that would be good, quite frankly. In December 2023, Director Wray said he sees blinking lights everywhere regarding to foreign terrorist threats against our homeland. How would you characterize the state of threats to our homeland by foreign terrorist groups?
Foreign terrorist organizations have adapted and started utilizing online platforms, and so is the FBI. And so while they are adapting and expanding how they harm our country, we have as well. They have not stopped. There's been a resurgence in places like West Africa and elsewhere of foreign terrorist organizations, and also the newly emboldened drug trafficking organizations in Mexico. It's going to take a whole of government approach to get.
Does Hezbollah fall within that group?
Yes, sir.
So Hezbollah is involved in not only terrorism, but narco-terrorism?
Yes, sir.
So do you consider Hezbollah a threat to the United States?
Absolutely.
All right, finally, do you have enough people to do all this? Do you need more people? You're involved in a lot of things, and the numbers speak for themselves. You have FBI agents helping here in Washington, D.C. You have FBI agents helping in illegal immigration. That's good. You've got a chance here to tell us if you need more people. Seems to me that threat level of this country is pretty high right now. You got thousands of domestic terrorism cases. How many are being investigated?
I think 3,500 off the top of my head.
3,500, okay. Anyway, it seems your plate's pretty full. I would urge you to get with your people. And if you think you need more people, now's the time to do it. It would be a shame to miss an opportunity to plus up the FBI if the threats justified it. Will you look?
I will look, sir.
Okay, but are you comfortable you have enough people right now?
Right now, I'm comfortable with the reallocation of agents and personnel outside of Washington, D.C. and plussing up states like South Carolina in double-digit numbers, and I'll get back with my team on this one.
Thank you for your service.
Senator Whitehouse.
Boy, is my timing good.
It is very good.
Director Patel, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
When you were here for your confirmation, we talked about your so-called enemies list. It appears to me that there have been adverse actions of various kinds taken against about 20 of the 60 people on your enemies list. You've been in office for 7 months. At that rate, you've got 14 months until you've hit all 60. Can you explain that?
Again, that is an entirely inaccurate presupposition. I do not have an enemies list. You can continue to characterize it as you wish. The only actions we take, generally speaking, for personnel at the FBI are ones based on merit and qualification and your ability to uphold your constitutional duty. You fall short, you don't work there anymore.
Well, there was a list. You don't like it to be called an enemies list, and it had about 60 names, and about 20 have had an adverse action. So those are, I think, pretty clear facts. Let me move on to your grand jury testimony, which we also talked about when you were here. I think you indicated that you understood that a witness in the grand jury is free to discuss afterwards whatever they told the grand jury. And you then went on to suggest, saying, I can't go into court orders granted by the D.C. District Chief Judge, and you want me to violate a court order. In those remarks, you fairly plainly suggested that there was a court order of some kind that somehow restricted or limited your ability to discuss your own testimony to that grand jury. Since then, that chief judge that you mentioned, Judge Boasberg, has written, and I'm quoting him here, Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E allows witnesses like Patel to divulge the contents of their testimony, meaning that nothing was preventing him from doing so before the committee. Can we confirm here today that there is no court order of any kind that limits your ability as a witness before the grand jury to discuss your own testimony to that grand jury?
We can confirm that pursuant to my action that that grand jury testimony has been released, the transcript.
Let's, in what forum was it released, may I ask?
Publicly.
Okay, we'll check on that. The FBI does background investigations. In the case of a U.S. attorney, Jeanine Pirro, it has come to light that in a civil proceeding, that Fox News executives, prior to her confirmation, called her, I'm quoting here, a reckless maniac who makes, quote, insane comments, and said, I don't trust her to be responsible, and noted her penchant for what they called random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites. My question to you is, did that turn up in her background investigation?
For any background investigation, Senator, we do not discuss those publicly. And for every background investigation, when there's an adjudication, it is not made by me. It is made by the career professionals who run the inspection division and background checks.
And you have been watching live FBI Director Kash Patel testifying in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on a myriad of topics. We'll get back to that here in a moment after this quick 2-minute break. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. It is 10:18. I'm Jane Monreal. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. September is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. If you were with us a couple of weeks ago, we talked to Olympian Shannon Miller, who talked about her own journey with ovarian cancer. And we want to take this to the local level and see what is happening around our communities here in the Carolinas and what people are doing to advocate and bring awareness to ovarian cancer, as well as her own story. Shannon Routh, now Teal Diva, I'm going to call you Teal Diva.
Thank you.
Is here in the Live Impact studio joining me this morning to share her own experience. And Shannon, let's just start with that. Your story with ovarian cancer. How many years ago did you get your diagnosis, and what was your experience like?
I was diagnosed 16 years ago. I'm very proud of that. I was diagnosed when I was 32 years old. I had never heard of ovarian cancer. I knew one person who was 95, and I was 32, just shy of my 3-year wedding anniversary, and I thought, how did I get the older lady cancer? And so I started doing research and trying to find something in our community, and there really wasn't anything. But to back up, how I was diagnosed was I was traveling abroad and having just cramping that felt just different than my normal monthly period. And I chalked it up to traveling, eating different foods, and just,
Sure, that'll make sense.
Yeah. And when I got back, just the symptoms progressed and went throughout the summer, and got so bad it would just send me to my knees. And so that's not normal, obviously. So I went and had, I went to my OBGYN, and they did pelvic examination. Now, I had a history of polycystic ovarian syndrome. So PCOS is what it's called. So it was not a big deal for me to have issues with cysts on my ovaries. So that's what they alluded to, was that, okay, you've got an enlarged cyst, let's go to surgery, have it removed before it bursts. And so that's really where it started. And then I remember waking up from surgery and asking, do I still have at least one of my ovaries? Because then that meant that there was potential for us having kids, because we didn't have kids. And they, at the time, were like, yes. And I was so relieved. And then 5 days later, pathology came back, and it was a very aggressive form of ovarian cancer, and they had to go back in and do a radical hysterectomy like 4 or 5 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and then I started chemo after that and did 6 rounds of chemotherapy. Yeah.
You talk about it like it's like, oh, yeah, okay, this happened. I mean, with time, you've learned a lot, and you've talked to other women who have had similar experiences themselves. And, what I'm sure each experience is different for everybody, and what do you say to them? And how did you, besides the shock, once that settles, how do you move forward?
I think number one is holding space for someone. Whenever I am around anyone and they're newly diagnosed or they're in the thick of chemotherapy, it's raw, it's painful, and all of those emotions are new and they're real. And so I just get down on their level and I just hold space. And I just, and I'm careful with the words that I use because as you said, every person's experience is unique to them. And so I want to be careful and not just say like, everything's going to be okay, or you got this. Those are nice cheerleader things to say, but,
meet them where they are.
Right. And some people don't, that's not where they are.
Right.
And so I just read the room, basically, and get down on their level. And if I feel like they need the cheerleader, then I'll roll into that. If I feel like they need someone that's empathetic and compassionate and really just, by nature, I'm kind of a bold person in the room. But if they need me to be a softer tone or a softer version of myself, then I can I can work
go
on
there
that too.
I like that though. Hold the space. Hold the space where they are. You're wearing teal today. It is Tuesday. And I like that we talked a little bit off air here saying that it's Teal Tuesday. And you got a lot of teal going on with your group. Tell us how now you are using your voice for a community that you yourself said, 16 years ago you were trying to find information out there and there was really nowhere to go to.
One of the most frustrating things that I found out upon being diagnosed was that there's not an accurate screening test for ovarian cancer. So we as women, we think when we go to the OBGYN that we're being checked, all the boxes are being checked for whatever, for breast cancer, cervical, all of it.
Right.
And so to find out, I had been actively going to the OBGYN, and to find out that I wasn't being tested, and I wasn't being tested because there is no test, was pretty alarming. And I thought, as most anyone diagnosed, when that sits in, you're like, well, wait a minute. What can I do there? And so immediately you want to get plugged in. And so a part of my personal advocacy is educating young women, because I think that a lot of the material out there is, you see women with gray hair as the marketing feature, and you don't see yourself. And so we take an active role with college universities, speaking to different sororities, and we're, by the way, open to do that with anyone at any university, but just trying to have that conversation. And what we learned is some of these young women don't even know what a pap smear is, so having to change your role there too, to make sure that you're not speaking over their head. They're looking at you like a deer in headlights. So we simplify our message and just start bringing in terms that need to be known at a younger age.
Right.
And so I've gone to DC to advocate on behalf of ovarian cancer. The reason we call it Teal Tuesday, it's just a little fun marketing thing, but it's a nationwide advocacy effort. It's Teal Tuesday. On Tuesdays we wear teal, and the idea is throughout the month or whenever you want, you paint your nails or your toenails teal, and when someone says, oh, I love your shirt, as we girls do when we're walking around, I love your shirt, I love your earrings, I love that color on your nails, it opens the door for us to talk about an uncomfortable topic. And we say like, oh, thank you. First of all, I got it at and let me tell you why I'm wearing it, and then you just do a little quick plug about ovarian cancer. So, but yeah, we try to, like I said, go educate to the younger generation, and then to the community.
Yeah, I mean the message and the teachings are real basic. We're starting with a pap smear. Right, when you should be going for a pap smear starting at a young adult age. So that is where it starts, is to get these regular exams.
Just to pause on that for just a second. Those regular exams don't include a test for ovarian.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
They
will
wild. Press on your ovaries.
So if I were someone, here's what I say to someone who's really like, well, wait a minute. First of all, the symptoms mimic what we as women face every single month, which is easy to dismiss and oftentimes is dismissed. It's bloating, pelvic pain, sometimes eating too much and feeling full, a change in your urinary frequency, lower back pain. I mean, raise your hand if you haven't had that. If you're dieting, you're drinking more water. And what woman doesn't want to feel full while eating less? We have those all the time. And so if I were standing in front of someone who was genuinely concerned, I would say, hey, listen, you know your body better than anybody. You and God know your body better than anybody else. Would you agree? And yes.
Of course.
So then when that pain is just a little different, and it's something different than you've ever experienced before, and just something doesn't feel right. Your body will tell you when something's wrong. Yeah. And so then it's, okay, make a note of that, and then if that goes on and it's persistent over 2 months' time, you need to reach out. And then when you go to the doctor, if you're not feeling heard, go to another doctor.
Right. Right. I mean, and this is what we're saying these days is you have to advocate for
Yes.
your own health, no matter what the issue is, whether it is those cramps or something else, or whatever it is, you have to voice for yourself. And it can't be the doctors checking off something
Right.
that they're required to check off. You know yourself. And so, the referral or the second opinion or, any other voice or aspect of your own advocacy. So that, for sure, is something, is a takeaway we can
Yes.
have for our own health. But, so Shannon, sorry. So you were dealing with your own stuff and then taking it to, you got to know that ovarian screenings is not part of an annual
Right.
exam with
That's
your
correct.
OBGYN.
So I will tell you this, if you were to go in and ask for something, what we do have something, but it's not reliable, which is why we say we don't have a reliable screening test. There is a blood test called the CA-125, the CA-125. It's a blood marker, but it is not 100% accurate, meaning sometimes your stress level or foods might elevate that and it be a false positive.
Okay.
But there's other women who have had stage 3, stage 4 ovarian cancer, and their CA-125 level
Looks
never
fine.
moved. Right? So it's not an accurate level. But for me, they did a transvaginal ultrasound, which is an ultrasound, that goes inside you rather than on your belly.
Okay.
And then they did the CA-125, and it still didn't detect a tumor. It detected a growth on my ovary, which they related to a cyst.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So as we are now in the middle of September, Teal Diva,
Yes.
you're in the middle of several events this month, right? How can people get involved? If not even for this month, but just get involved and, maybe we know somebody, a family, friend, or a coworker. How can we get involved?
Absolutely. So Teal Diva is a local nonprofit born in the Carolinas. I started it on my 3rd chemotherapy out of need, a need for hope. And that's primarily what we try to do, is bring hope and community to those of us diagnosed with a cancer that is not often talked about. And so we want to parade around in our teal and be a voice. And so this month we have an event called A Mile for Her. This event started because a friend of mine was diagnosed, she was going through ovarian cancer, and she was in remission and was training for one of our local 5K events, the Teal Diva 5K. And she got about a month out from the event. Her name was Amber. She got about a month out, and she was training on a trampoline. And she had lost 100 pounds and had almost gotten up to 3 miles, and her cancer came back. And so we did a call out to social media and said, everybody walk a mile for Amber and post about it, and we'll make sure she sees it, just for hope and encouragement while she's going through treatment. And then it morphed into a part of our 5K events. We have a whole 1 mile section of the event where it's dedicated to any woman diagnosed with a gynecologic cancer, whether she's still with us or whether she's passed on. And so it's such a celebratory and somber kind of part of the race, but it's so beautiful. We wanted to give it its own space. And so throughout September, we're doing a virtual challenge called A Mile for Her. We ask you to commit 1 mile. And listen, you can do it in the grocery store, mowing your grass. You can walk it, run it, bike it, hike it, swim it, paddle it, row it, jump it, however you want to do it. You choose your challenge. All we ask you to do is commit at least 1 of your miles to, whether it be your mom, and maybe these women aren't even diagnosed, but it's just the awareness factor of the women in your life. We all have a woman in our life, everybody. So, and it could be for someone that you've known who's been diagnosed, or someone that you don't know, and you're just raising awareness because you love her. So we're asking you to do that. The registration is only $10. It's not $10 a mile. It's just $10. And there's an opportunity for you to add swag if you want to do that as a part of your registration, but it's a virtual challenge. We're trying to get every state within the United States as a part. We're missing 22 states.
Come on.
As of today. So what our goal is by the end of the month to turn the U.S. teal, basically.
There you go.
But yeah, and then you just record your miles. You can record them daily. You can record them weekly, monthly, whatever works best for you. And you can record if you want to go out and do a 1 mile bike ride and then do a swim. You can record them as each activity.
Great.
And then at the end of the month, we have a celebration. We want to celebrate all the hard work we've done throughout the month of September and through our Mile for Her, and just celebrate one another and honor one another's space. And so we are partnering with Culinary Dropout in South End, and we're hosting we're a Teal Tap takeover.
Oh boy.
I know. It's going to be great. The Culinary Dropout has been amazing to partner with. I think some of their staff is going to show up in some teal.
Great.
They're doing a discount for food that you order as a part of the night. And they're doing some drink specials where they are honoring Teal Diva with those drink specials. So we would love, you can RSVP to that on our website, on the calendar.
Okay.
You can also sign up for Mile for Her on our website.
The
and
website
then it's tealdiva.org. .org, yes.
Okay, tealdiva.org.
We have a gala also in
wow,
November.
got a lot going on.
Yes, November is our big fundraising gala. It's the Teal Diva Gala, and November 15th. So there's more information on our website about that. There's resources on our website that can give you a lot more details that you can download and share. There's all kinds of ways to volunteer, plug in. If you're a survivor, you can get involved. We just did a survivor photo shoot a couple days ago, and we just want to celebrate one another and walk with these women and talk and just say, hey, listen, don't forget to live the life you're working so hard to fight for.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. All right. Shannon Routh, tealdiva.org. Carlene is already starting her
my
Mile for Her.
I signed up for my
Good,
dear
Carlene.
friend Spencer, who is going through her ovarian cancer it and she sent it to us. It was a couple weeks ago. I was like, hey, do this, and I do try to walk, daily anyway with my dogs. And now I just do little longer walks to the Whitewater Center the weekend.
Fantastic.
So
awesome.
to try and
Yeah,
get extra steps
give
in.
attention
This
and
is
give
important.
love and awareness.
Yes.
And dedicate that mile.
Yeah, we're collecting 9,583 miles for the month. We're a little less than halfway completed, so we do need people to sign up and help us. And why that number, it feels like just a weird number, but it's the average number of women diagnosed with a gynecologic cancer each month. And so we want to kind of honor that, which is how we came up with that number.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming in, Shannon.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank you for having
your
me.
message, all of the energy and awareness that you bring. tealdiva.org. We all know a woman. Dedicate something to her. And maybe you have a few hers that you can walk those extra miles for. All right. We will take a quick break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back to Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 10:39. I'm Jane Monreal, and we were talking about ovarian cancer. Shannon Routh with tealdiva.org. Also, we are covering this morning live the Senate Judiciary FBI hearing. This is an oversight hearing with FBI Director Kash Patel. Let's continue to listen in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Published a study just last week that found terrorists from the right were responsible for 6 times more deaths than people from the left. I actually don't want to go tit for tat on this, but what I am asking for is that this rhetoric of blaming one side or the other stop. If you could convey that to the president, and that we actually work on things that are solutions. So could you commit to me, Mr. Patel, Director Patel, that you will do that?
Absolutely, Senator.
Okay, thank you. Last, you were asked about social media, and I will put some more questions on the record about that. I think we can make major movement on that. The local FBI helped when the city of St. Paul was a victim of a cyber attack, and I'm concerned about some of the cyber attack cuts. I'll ask you that on the record. AI, I'm glad you raised that. I think we have to do more, but also including election interference, because they're using AI videos. I just had one happen in this very committee on me, and I just think they're going to start using it in democracy, election. They could be foreign. Do you think some of this is foreign entities, Mr. Patel?
Generally speaking, we have traced a lot of this to loose groups overseas that don't have any sort of central cluster.
There's going to be a lot on you then. And then last, I'll put on the record just my concern about protecting journalists. The new guidance that came out of the department. Have you deployed any FBI resources to investigate members of the media for activities related to news gathering, reporting, or reporting on government whistleblowers, something near and dear to the chairman's heart?
The only time we would involve an investigation of a journalist if they've conducted or committed an allegation of separate criminal activity, most prominently leaks of classified information.
Thank you.
Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, good to see you. Thank you for being here. You're leading the FBI at a very critical time for that agency and also a critical time for our country. And I want to start by talking to you about the tide of violence that we have seen, ideological violence against people of faith, particularly Christians. You just think here, take a rough catalog. Just in the last couple of years, we've seen shooting at the Covenant School, Christian school in Nashville. We've seen school shooting at the Annunciation School. We've seen church shootings multiply. We've seen acts of crime and violence, vandalism, arson against churches and parishes all across the country. And then, of course, last week, Charlie Kirk, who said, "I want to be remembered for my courage, for my faith," was shot on a college campus. Let me just start with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Is the FBI, and I appreciate the tremendous work the FBI has done in this investigation, is the FBI investigating the Kirk assassination as part of this broader pattern of anti-religious, anti-Christian violence?
We are investigating Charlie's assassination fully and completely, and running out every lead related to any allegation of broader violence, and we're producing results on that we'll disclose when appropriate.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Let me just ask you a few questions about that, if I could.
Sure.
Reports have suggested that the FBI is investigating a broader network of groups that may have had some knowledge of the shooter's plans. Can you give us any details on that, following up what you already said in public? How's the FBI working to find other potential accomplices, folks who may have known about the shooter's plans, folks who may have encouraged him? Any update on any of that?
So in terms of what we do for an interrogation perspective, we go and reach out to the family and community immediately. And we've conducted those investigations and interrogations with local law enforcement, and we're continuing to do that because those closest to the suspect are going to hopefully know the most about the suspect and his beliefs and his ideology. On top of that, unfortunately, it has been leaked that there was a Discord chat, and for those unfamiliar with it, it's a gaming chat room online that the suspect participated in. So what we're doing, we've already done, is serve legal process, not just on Discord, so that the information we gathered is sustained and held in a evidentiary posture that we could use in prosecution should it be decided to do so. And we're also going to be investigating anyone and everyone involved in that Discord chat.
Okay, very good. I see the public reports that the Discord thread had as many as 20 additional users. It sounds like you're trying to run down all of that to see if that's accurate, who else may have been on that thread, what they may have known. Is that fair to say?
It's a lot more than that, and we're running them all down.
It's a lot more than 20?
Yes, sir.
And you're running all of that to ground?
Every single one.
Yeah, fantastic. Let me just turn to the broader question here of anti-religious, anti-Christian violence. Let me just give you a few stats that I'm sure that you're all too familiar with. Every person of faith in America certainly is. Major report this past year found that there have been over 400 instances of hostility against churches in the United States in the year 2024. Those included arsons, bomb threats, shootings, and firearm incidents. Another organizational report found that there were 500 attacks on Catholic parishes alone. So that number, 415, that's all Christian churches in 2024. Another organization found 500 separate attacks on just Catholic parishes since May of 2020. Of course, we have the Covenant school shooting, the Annunciation school shooting in Minnesota, where 2 children were shot dead as they were praying in a pew. Here's my question. What is the FBI doing to take on this rising tide of violence that seems to be motivated by anti-religious hatred?
Specifically, sir, we have 60 anti-Catholic hate crime incidences reported to us that are being investigated. Publicly, I can tell you we have 5 hate crime investigations with anti-Catholic bias ongoing currently in the states, in the cities of Kansas City, Louisville, Houston, Nashville, and Richmond. That's what I can say publicly, but any ideologically based attack against any faith, as a man of faith myself, will not be tolerated, and the full resources of the FBI are committed to all of it.
Are you investigating any domestic cells that instigate or encourage or fund or in any way support attacks on churches or other houses of worship?
Senator, you raise an incredibly important point that most people don't look at. I've always said we follow the money, and whether it's terrorism or attacks based on ideology or attacks on institutions of faith or people of faith, someone's paying for it, and we are reverse tracing those steps. We are not stopping at the perpetrator themselves. We are reverse engineering to hold those accountable in our investigations to who funded them and knowingly funded them, and we will bring the appropriate steps against them with our partners at DOJ.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. We look forward to hearing reports on that progress. Yeah.
I'd like to, I've had some members say if you could pull the microphone.
Sorry about that. Against them with our partners at DOJ.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. We look forward to hearing reports on that progress. Yeah.
I'd like to, I've had some members say if you could pull the microphone.
Sorry about that.
Let me just ask you this in the same vein, Director. Since the Dobbs decision, the FBI has advertised $25,000 rewards for information on attacks on abortion clinics. Will the FBI similarly offer rewards for information on attacks of houses of worship?
Yes, when it is appropriate. The rewards are any reward, whether it's an attack on a house of faith or on a homicide or whatever, is determined by a group within the FBI, but we will work with them to make sure that rewards of monetary value are put out for all ideologically based attacks.
Good. You just rattled off some statistics, which I was glad to hear, about the number of investigations you have open, the incidents you're tracking against Christians, against houses of worship. Let me just ask you if you consider designating a senior official as a liaison to houses of worship, to Christian and other religious organizations, to publish metrics on investigations and arrests related to church attacks, church threats, vandalism, arson, et cetera. Will you set up a system for liaising and then reporting so that everybody can see, this committee and the public can see just how many attacks we're talking about, just what the level of threat and violence is and what the FBI is doing to combat it?
Senator, you're speaking my language. The private-public sector partnership on this specific issue, just like the other ones we've talked about, is equally transformative to finding those involved in these criminal activities. And with your assistance, and I would ask you if you're able to identify someone who's an expert in that area, we will work with them. We will take their information because as great as the FBI is, we're only as good as the information we can get, and we don't have the reach that the private sector does in some of these areas.
Very good. Happy to help on that. Let me ask you about something specific to the FBI, because sadly, as you know, the FBI, when it comes to anti-religious animus, has been part of the problem before you got to this agency. And I know that you remember the infamous memo generated by the FBI that attempted to recruit informants in houses of worship, in particular in Catholic parishes. Your predecessor testified when this information, I just want to reiterate, this memo became public because of a whistleblower. It was not turned over to this committee. It was not disclosed to this committee. In fact, we were told it didn't exist, and then a whistleblower published it, showing that indeed the FBI had recruited informants, attempted to, into Catholic parishes. Your predecessor then testified, sitting right where you are today, he testified that this, I'm going to quote, was a single product by a single field office, end quote. That was a lie. Because we then had additional whistleblowers come forward and say, no, actually, multiple field offices contributed to the drafting of the report. And indeed, there was a second anti-Catholic memo that the FBI generated. And indeed, those memos were distributed to over 1,000 FBI agents across the country. You know all of this. You and I talked about it when you were here for your confirmation hearing back in January. I just want to follow up and see, have you been able to determine how this memo got written and distributed? How is it that the Federal Bureau of Investigation came to be recruiting informants in Christian churches in this country?
Senator, we did dig in, and we are doing our investigation simultaneously with Congress. And just to put it in perspective, we've provided 700 documents on the Richmond Catholic memo specifically to this committee, whereas my predecessor provided 19 pages. And not only that, but we looked into how the source recruitment structure at the FBI was conducted during this time. And we made adjustments and permanent fixes to ensure that sources are not put into houses of worship unless there is an actual ongoing criminal or international terrorism threat. We will not use sources at this FBI to investigate and cull information just for the sake of culling information in houses of worship.
Has anybody been fired for this?
There have been terminations related to this and resignations.
Good. There need to be, because if this is going to be standard at the FBI, nobody can trust the FBI. You want to talk about violating the First Amendment? This has got First Amendment violation written all over it. It's one of the most revolting chapters in the FBI's history. And considering what we're seeing more broadly in terms of the acts of violence against people of faith, this has absolutely got to end, and the FBI has to lead the way. So I count on you to do that, Director. Let me just, in the minute or so that I have remaining, let me just shift gears and ask you about something else you said earlier. You said that protecting our youth is maybe the FBI's top priority. It's great to hear. Let me ask you about the role of AI chatbots in that, which you've talked about a little bit already today. Are you investigating any cases of AI-generated child sex abuse material? You issued a PSA earlier this year warning that synthetic child sex abuse material, that's where the AI generates it using maybe a real kid's image, but then generates sex material, sex abuse material. You warned that that was illegal under federal law. Is the FBI investigating any instances of this synthetic CSAM material generated by AI that you can speak to?
We are investigating dozens of those matters because, let me just say this, as far as the FBI is concerned, generative AI that produces CSAM, child sexual abuse material, under our investigative authorities is treated as equally as if it were actual child sexual abuse material. There's no difference for me and the FBI on this.
Let me just ask you one other thing in this vein. I'm sure you've seen the reporting that Meta's AI rules, their own internal guidelines, allowed their chatbots to have sensual, that's their word, sensual conversations with children. We've had instances, multiple instances of children, minors, taking their own lives at the behest of chatbots that instructed them with specificity on how to do it. What's the FBI's role here in investigating what is going on with these chatbots, with these AI companies encouraging. I mean, listen, if an actual person did that, we would say that's grooming. We would say that's child abuse. These companies are doing it. Their own guidelines allow it. What can we do about that?
You're referring to NVE, nihilistic violent extremism, and the 764. It has been made a priority of the FBI because they are targeting children, and these chatbots and these generative AI are getting coupled with actual humans who are using them and releasing them because they can do the work faster and quicker than humans can and get into spaces like social media where humans have a difficulty in engaging. And what we're doing is treating any extension of generative AI as the criminal themselves. And we have, I think, I've got to get the number back to you, but over 1,000 investigations related to NVE. We've had numerous takedowns and arrests of 764 individuals, and we are educating. This may be the most important part. I'm directly engaging with the social media and media companies, the internet service providers, to find a way to shut down. There's nothing I can do at the FBI to force them to shut it down, but work with you in Congress to find a way to work with our partners to get that shut down permanently.
Thank
Senator Coons. Thank you, Chairman Grassley. Thank you, Chairman, for calling this hearing. I'm grateful we're continuing this committee's long tradition of oversight, and in particularly today, oversight of the FBI. Director Patel, thank you for being here. There's a number of issues I hope that we can speak to. I want to start by reading something you said to me during your confirmation hearing under oath. I have no interest, no desire, and will not, if confirmed, go backwards. There will be no politicization at the FBI. Then you looked me in the eyes and said there will be no retribution actions taken by the FBI should I be confirmed as director. I told you that in your office. I tell you that again today. I'm concerned that that's not what's happened, that since you took over as director, you've cleaned house or forced out senior leaders across the Bureau, in particular targeting those that worked on investigations of President Trump. The former acting director has just sued you for firing him for political reasons. So did a leader in the D.C. field office. And the well-respected leader of the Salt Lake City office was pushed out last month, leaving that office shorthanded at a particularly difficult time. I'm worried that these actions compromise the Bureau's ability to keep Americans safe. Hundreds of agents have resigned. You are lowering application standards to fill vacancies. You've reassigned large numbers of agents to work on immigration and street crime, issues other law enforcement agencies can handle, perhaps more effectively with the FBI, but I'm concerned that this compromises the Bureau's ability to address national security risks, uniquely its capability. In fact, you've shut down the Office of Integrity and Compliance, which makes sure that agents act in a lawful and ethical way, and reassign staff away from domestic terrorism investigations exactly at a moment I think we are all concerned about it. I also have to ask, you came before the Appropriations Committee in May and told us you wanted a $500 million budget cut for the FBI, literally an effort to defund the police. I am grateful for the work of the men and women of the FBI. They've done great work this year in Delaware, partnering with the Dover Police Department to support human trafficking victims, partnering with the Middletown Police Department on armed robbery and carjacking. And it's urgent, I think, that we fix the direction and the prioritization within the FBI. And I wish we could focus on those efforts today. But I'm seeing an FBI leadership more focused on social media clout and on political revenge than on fighting crime. Director, have you ever ordered that an FBI employee be terminated because he or she worked on an investigation into President Trump?
Senator, thank you. One quick correction for the record. There's 280 NVE investigations. I gave the incorrect number to Senator Hawley. Thank you.
Understood.
As far as a lot of your statement, I disagree with it, and I'm happy to address it. But the only way, generally speaking, an individual is terminated at the FBI is if they have violated their oath of office, violated the law, or failed to uphold the standards that we need them to have at the FBI.
So those who say that they've been fired because of working on investigations into President Trump are lying or misrepresenting?
Well, those matters are alleged in litigation, which is ongoing, so I can't comment on those specifically.
Could you comment on why you fired former acting FBI Director Driscoll?
I can't because it's ongoing litigation.
Could you say now definitively under oath that the rank and file agents who were assigned to work January 6 cases will not be terminated because that's what they were assigned to do?
I've said it before and I've said it again. Your case assignment, as I was given case assignments when I was a young prosecutor, does not dictate your career or your...
And you've been watching live the Senate Judiciary Oversight Committee hearing, talking to FBI Director Kash Patel here on WCNC+. We are coming up on 11 o'clock. Charlotte Today is up next with Nick Sturdivant out for the day. I will be back here in the Live Impact studio at 12:30. Hope you join us then. Have a great morning.